Welcome to My ADHD Relationship, your evidence-based guide to navigating love, friendship, and family life through the lens of ADHD. Today, we are going to tackle a topic that so many people with ADHD and, their loved ones experience, but they might not even have a name for it. And that is the exhausting act of masking. So yeah, let's dive right into this. It's a really complex, but honestly, a super important topic to understand.
All right, so here's how we've laid this all out. We're basically going to walk you through the whole journey, from really understanding what the problem is, all the way to seeing that there's a clear, and I mean really hopeful, path towards a solution.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What are we actually talking about when we say masking? You hear that word a lot, but let's really break down what it means.
So at its core, it's a survival mechanism. It really is. It's like putting on a continuous performance that just drains an incredible amount of energy. A great way to think about it is right there, behavioral camouflage. It's the skill you learn, sometimes over decades, just to fit in and, protect yourself from judgment. And this is where you really see the hidden cost, right? In a relationship, this can look like a partner who seems totally fine on the outside, but inside, they are just completely exhausted. They're spending all this energy managing conversations, trying to read social cues, reining in their own impulses. It's like they're running this constant script in their head just to seem normal. And wow, is that draining? So that begs the question, right? Why? Why would anyone develop such a draining survival strategy? Well, the main reason, the real driver behind it, is this incredibly powerful, neurologically based experience. And it is so important to understand this. We're not just talking about being a little sensitive here. Experts think it's actually tied to real neurological differences in how the brain processes emotions related to rejection. What that means is the emotional punch from criticism or even just the fear of failure can feel intensely, overwhelmingly painful, way beyond what a neurotypical person might feel in the same situation. Right, and that intense desire to avoid that pain, that's the core motivation. Just try to imagine it for a second. If you felt like any little slip-up, any tiny bit of criticism could trigger this massive, overwhelming wave of emotional pain, well, of course you do absolutely anything to avoid it. The mask becomes your armor. It's what you put on to stop that pain before it even has a chance to land. And that fear drives all these other behaviors you see here, like intense people-pleasing or becoming a total perfectionist. They're all strategies designed to stop that pain from ever happening, and that is the real foundation of the mask. So it's not just about, hiding your fidgeting. It's about this compulsive need to get approval so you never have to feel that unbearable sting of disapproval. Okay, so here's the really crucial point. Keeping this mask on for years, or for a lot of people even decades, it takes a huge toll. It has some really severe consequences. Not just for your mental health, but for your very sense of who you are. Yeah, and this table really helps connect the dots, doesn't it? You can see how these specific masking behaviors are almost always a direct response to a core ADHD challenge. Take hyperorganization, for example. For a lot of folks with ADHD, that's not a natural trait at all. It's actually this incredibly exhausting strategy they've developed to fight against their own executive dysfunction, just so they don't get labeled as fleeky or unreliable. Exactly. And this constant performance, it creates this huge gap between who you pretend to be and who you really are. And then when you do succeed, it doesn't even feel like your success because it feels like it belongs to the mask. And that feeds right into what we call imposter syndrome. You could be achieving amazing things, but you're still living with this constant gnawing fear that you're about to be found out. And when you look at the numbers, they're pretty stark. The sheer strain of all this masking on top of untreated ADHD very often leads to other major mental health challenges, what doctors call comorbidities. And you can see it right here. Anxiety and depression are incredibly common for adults with ADHD, a lot of the time because that root cause, the ADHD itself, just isn't being addressed. And that's a huge reason why this misdiagnosis happens so often. The masking behaviors are so good, they actually hide the root of the problem. So a doctor might see the anxiety that comes from always being on high alert, or they might see the depression that comes from total burnout, and they'll treat that. And they might completely miss the underlying ADHD that's been driving the whole thing all along. Okay, so after hearing about all these high costs, it's really easy to feel a bit overwhelmed or even hopeless. But this is the hopeful part of our conversation. There absolutely is a clear, evidence-based path forward, a path to healing and to finding your authentic self again. And unmasking doesn't mean you just throw away all the helpful coping skills you've learned. Not at all. It's really about dropping the performance. In the immediate benefit, right away, is this huge reduction in burnout. That constant self-monitoring is gone, and that frees up an unbelievable amount of mental and emotional energy that you can finally put towards building a life that actually works for you. So, where do you start? Well, the journey really begins with these 3 foundational steps. And it's a gradual process, okay? It starts by just becoming aware, just noticing your masks and why you use them. The next step is all about reframing that with self-compassion, seeing your ADHD as a difference, not a defect. And from there, you can start learning to advocate for your real needs instead of just hiding them away. But this journey is definitely not one you should take on alone. Building a support system that is truly neurodiversity affirming, meaning they get it and they support you for who you are, is absolutely vital for this whole process. And this is such a great way to look at different kinds of support. Therapy is amazing for healing the why. Working through the emotional wounds, the shame that's built up over years of feeling different. Coaching, on the other hand, often gives you the how. It's more about the practical skills and strategies you need to build a life that works with your brain, so you don't even need the mask to get by. And please never, ever underestimate the power of community. Seriously, just connecting with other people who just get it is one of the most powerful tools there is. It helps you tear down that deep-seated belief that you're somehow broken or too much. Finding a space where you can just be you without having to explain yourself, wow, it's so healing. So if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this. ADHD masking isn't a character flaw, not at all. It's actually a brilliant survival strategy that helped you get to where you are today. The thing is, the path forward is about recognizing that performance might not be serving you anymore and trading it in for a life that's way more authentic and ultimately way more fulfilling. So we want to leave you with this question to think about. It's a really powerful one, whether you reflect on it for yourself or maybe even talk about it with the people you love. And hey, before you go, remember to like and subscribe to our channel so that you're notified when a new video is released. Thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.